Welcome to the National Federation of High School Spirit Rules Changes for 2020-2021. I'm Julie Jacobson, and
I'm Jess Panko.
hi, Jess. We'll start with our three people who are in charge of the Spirit Rules Committee, Sean Knight, Shonda Brown, and James Weaver. One thing that is new this year is that USA Cheer has become a partner in the rules with National Federation. So therefore, there is no more ACA. Rules have aligned to the point where both organizations felt that they were on the same page. So they are now partners in this endeavor. You'll find your rules for your National Federation rule summary in your book that you may have gotten with your membership or from your AD. You can find them also on the usacheer.org website, where you could also find more things like rules for youth and rec, junior high, the college NFHS or high school NFHS rules, the college rules all-star, and also stunt. You'll also find their training safety resources, including things like COVID kinds of information, any kind of data and research, and then emergency action plans are probably the three most important things there. Also some newsletters, and you'll also find something handy dandy, and that is rules videos that correspond with the rules in our rule book. And you can click on them and there'll be videos for you to see that particular rule being exhibited on that video. Alrighty. We also have the book available to us as an ebook. And I like the ebook. I like having my hard copy, but our ebook is highly searchable by keyword and is immediately available if you don't have your book with you. So those are two good things about it that are important. And there's also a rules app that you can get on your phone, and it is free if you're a member, a National Federation member. And that works quite a bit like the ebook. I think it works a little bit more easy. I like it better than the actual ebook. And again, it's highly searchable. It's immediately available to you. So it's wonderful to have if you are interested in that. Alrighty, so that kind of covers some of that stuff. Let's go ahead and dive into what our rule changes and clarifications are for this year. Rule number 1 is definitions. If you have your rule book with you and you want to follow along and such, that's great. Rule 1 removed basket toss this year. And it's because we also have the term toss in the definitions, and they covered the same exact thing. So they found it redundant and chose to remove basket toss instead of toss, since basket toss was a specific kind of toss. So that's that's only one of the changes in definitions, and that is why. Also under definitions, they clarified dismount. As you can see the changes that they made here. And it's to help you separate the difference between a true dismount versus a transition. So that is why that change or clarification happened in Rule 1 for dismount this year. All righty. And Jess, I think you're going to take over here with Rule 1 definitions for foldover stunt.
I will, yep. So your foldover stunt now reads as an inverted stunt in which the top person bends at the waist and is caught by catchers while one or both of the top person's ankles or feet remain in the grip of the bases. Examples there being a yo-yo or a pancake. Basically, it was just a little bit of rewording there to clarify the actual stunt being performed. Nothing major about that change as well. We're going to go ahead and move on to the definition for prep. Prep now reads a stunt in which the top is standing on both feet with their weight equally distributed at approximately shoulder level. Again, that's the change there, and the wording was done to create a more consistent standard of what a prep was, and then further differentiates it from prep level, which is a separate definition. Prep level and prep are used in rules following, so they just wanted to make sure that there was a clear definition of those two terms. We're switching to the definition for switch up. Quick change here. Top person starts with 1 foot in a load, is released and lands in a vertical stunt on 1 foot or both feet. Again, that better reflects what actually occurs in a switch up. Toss is a quite a big pop for that top person. A release is just they're releasing her, so no contact on that way from that load to the vertical stunt. Alrighty, so that concludes the changes in the definitions. We're going to move on to Rule 321C. Again, this presentation, we're just going over the rule changes for the year. In Article 321C, now that states that a base must not, among other conditions there, C now reads hold objects when supporting an extended stunt. So that allows the bases to focus on their main task, supporting and keeping that top person in the stunts safe and stable. However, it allows for some of the prep level stunts to hold an object, prep level or below. So that restriction is for extended stunt. Okay, moving on then to inversions. This is where our meat and potatoes of changes have occurred once again. So 335A now reads braced flips in a pyramid are permitted provided all the following conditions are met. Article A now reads, both of the top person's hands or arms are in continuous contact with a bracer. If a single bracer is used, there must be hand-arm connection between both hands and arms of the top and the bracer. So that was the intention when that new ability last year was put in place, to have one bracer for that braced flip. This was how it should have been worded. It was omitted last year, so they've just put that in place. So no real rule change there. They're just actually putting that restriction in place for that. Moving on to the G restriction. Now the top person does not perform more than 1 1/4 flipping rotations. And now they're allowing no more than 1 complete twist. Last year, we were restricted to a half twist. So basically the rationale there was we've always allowed the full twist suspended roll. So in progressions there, it's a logical step to now do that in the stunt. It's the same techniques, you're just a little bit higher. So they've released that out to now more than 1 complete twist. So you can do more than that half twist. All right, so we're gonna watch a video here. Let that play once here. So there's a single bracer. She completes 1 twist during that transition. Note that the connection, they have both hands connected to for each throughout the transition. Okay, still going with braced flips. H restriction now says the release top person and baser bases make no more than a 1/4 turn around the bracer. So this is to be in line with other release transitions. They allow movement around the bracer up to that 1/4 turn in release transition. So this is just falling in line, allowing that that 1/4 turn So from front to the side or from side to the front during that release transition. That's now allowed for a braced flip. And then Article I is just moving that down to make room for the new H there. So that Article I is still from last year. It's just basically an editorial change there. Okay, moving on to inversions and all other inversions. So Article 336A, 336, I'm thinking that's supposed to be a 6 there, A3. So Article A6, so in all other inversions, A now reads, inversions may release to the following provided the release goes to the original bases and there is no spotter. So we're still allowing non-inverted dismounts with no more than a half turn, loading position with no more than a half turn, and now we're allowing a stunt at any level with no more than a quarter turn. So that allows, say, from an inversion to turn to an arabesque at the top instead of, having to hit the straight on view and then turning. So again, no more than a quarter turn. And again, we want that release from an inversion to be to the original bases. Okay. 336C1 and 2. This also applies to dance rule 436C1 and 2. In inversions where the base of support begins at or passes through prep level, we still require at least 2 people on the performing surface in position to protect that head and neck of the top person. We are now 2 says contact must be maintained between at least one base or spotter and the top person until the top person is no longer inverted or their hands are on the performing surface. Contact must be sufficient to stabilize or control the top person's position. So now they've taken out the restriction here where the contact has to be. And again, the contact must be maintained between, so that's either the base or the spotter can be the one that's holding on there, or the top person could be actively holding through that transition. So they just need to have one person maintain contact through the inverted position. Okay, so then the exception was deleted there from the previous book. And again, adding a spotter to the stunt eliminates that need to have constant contact by 2 bases there. So it could be a base or a spotter, and just one person needs to maintain that connection. Okay. New exception under that 336C2 and also 436C2. That now reads, a foldover must be initiated from prep level or below, and the top person must be caught on his or her back by multiple catchers. When the catchers are not the original bases, the new catchers shall be in place when the inversion is initiated, remain close to the original bases, and are not part of any other skill. So this is the exception to that, because obviously you can't maintain contact in that foldover until they get to that position where the bases on the ground can reach that top. Again, it really hasn't changed the definition there or what's allowed. They've just worded that exception. And again, you can't maintain that contact with their upper half until they reach that foldover position. Let's watch the video here. So again, notice that there's a release of contact with her upper half. The spotter remains in contact with her legs through that transition. The 2 side bases do let go of her through that transition so that they can regrip. So again, that spotter having the contact is very important throughout because again, both side bases do release the top person in the inverted transition. Okay. Next example here, handstand on the floor. Again, spotter maintains the contact. Bases do release her on the way through. Clear loss of contact with the two, but this is still legal because the spotter maintains the contact throughout. Alrighty, moving on now to our release stunts and tosses. So this we're referring to Article 355B, C, and D. Now in Article 5.5, release transitions are permitted provided all of the following conditions are met throughout the transition. Stunts and skills before and after the release have to be permitted for that to be allowed. B now reads, each bracer is at prep level or below. If in a prep or shoulder stand, the bracers shall have two bases or a base and a spotter. So again, difference there between definitions for prep level and prep. So prep is the actual stunt. Prep level is the level at which the stunt is. So please refer to your definitions. Article C now reads, the top person and at least one bracer maintains hand or arm contact except for the following skills. If the release is to a cradle position, the contact may be hand to foot and the bracer must be in a double base prep with a spotter. Previously, if the top person was going to a cradle, the bracer had to maintain that hand-to-hand or arm contact. Now this allows for a little bit higher contact to be made throughout. The top person that's released will generally travel higher, but that bracer can be holding onto the foot through that transition, provided that they're in a double-based prep with a spotter. Okay, and then just referring here, the original bases at any level, provided the top person, they may be released to the original bases at any level, provided the top person remains in a position where the upper body remains vertical and the legs are not in a seated or pike position. Vertical releases from an extended position to an extended position may not perform more than a quarter turn. So they've changed that wording from twist to turn. And again, the vertical release has to be between original bases. We're not releasing from one base pair to another base pair without the bracer in contact. Okay, continuing on here, non-brace person, top person in a vertical position, we've already done. Okay, so now we're at prep level or below. They may be released to the original bases in a loading position at any level with no more than a quarter turn. So again, prep level or below may be released to the original bases. So again, we're not switching base pairs there, at any level with no more than a quarter turn. The bracers do not provide primary support for the top person and they remain in place. They still can do that quarter turn around the bracer that we talked about previously when it came to braced flips. And again, F has not changed. So basically the changes for the braced releases were done just to clean up the section, clarify some things, and then to allow for a little bit higher of some skills for that hand to foot connection on the cradle. So again, make sure that that contact is maintained through that transition. So once the bases catch her, that's when the bracer can release that skill. All right, let's go ahead and watch. So you see she's traveling a little higher than if they were to keep a hand-hand or hand-arm connection. So they've determined that there's low risk to allowing for that higher release to happen. Again, that's a continuous transition. She lets go only when those bases have contact. All righty. And moving on to dismounts, this would apply to cheer and dance as well, 375, 475. What they've done here is just remove torch from the exception. That's that definition again, cradle dismounts from single base stunts to single base cradles must have an additional catcher or spotter who's responsible for the head and shoulder area of the top person. So the torch being a prep level skill with a harder body position, they require the spot to the cradle. So again, the as well, that was an exception to that, and they've determined that they do require the spotter. 379, we're deleting an article. That one, I am just sorry, I'm just referring to last year's rule book just for clarification there. So that was the cradle dismounts where a bracer is involved. That was now handled within the release transitions with a bracer, because again, dismount has changed to being released from all stunt personnel. If they're connected to a bracer, it's considered a transition. So 379 was no longer needed. And
Okay, switching over here, 389 and 489 has to do with tumbling. And it reads, airborne skills with hip overhead rotation may not be connected to one another while executing the skill. They had seen in several places within across the nation, actually, people connecting and then doing back tucks. So the rationale of this is the rule would eliminate standing tucks where athletes connect arms and simultaneously do a standing tuck, including hip overhead rotation. And that comes from the idea that if connected, there's a greater risk of head neck injuries. And before we start to see this happening everywhere, it was decided that this would be put in the book so that there's a kibosh on it, essentially. So that's new this year. And I believe that is the end of our rule changes and clarifications. Oh, nope, drops. Here we go. Dropping to the performing surface from a flip is not permitted. If you look at the rationale here, it's simply clarifying that a drop is a landing on a performing surface from an airborne position. A back handspring would not be airborne since the hands are on the ground. So that is why they took that out. To help clarify that. All righty, points of emphasis. There are several things here that they're taking a look at. Performance surfaces and areas. We were asked again to re-emphasize this list of skills which are allowed only on a mat, grass, or rubberized track. And those skills include basket tosses, elevator sponge tosses, other similar multi-base tosses, partner stunts where the base uses only one arm to support the top person, and then twisting, tumbling skills like Arabians, full twisting layouts, etc. They also wanted us to be sure to point out, again, friendly reminder, stunts and tumbling must be modified to be appropriate for the surface in relation to other participants, the surface and the area. They want us to pay special attention to that because if there is an injury, it often results in the stoppage of play. So pay attention to surfaces and what can be done on them. And then of course, in the area that you're given to perform or, in, you need to make sure that skills are limited in such a way that it prevents injury and therefore stoppage of play. All right, concussion awareness and practice. This year, the most recent injury data revealed the majority of concussions associated with SPIRIT programs do occur at practice. So to assist in the prevention of concussions, special attention should be given to length of practice. They're looking at several things now this year. Length of practice, performer readiness, coach supervision, teaching of proper techniques and skill progression, and enforcement of concussion protocol. And Appendix B on page 92 gives you suggested guidelines for management of concussion in sports. So you've got that available to you to have on hand if you're dealing with an athlete who has incurred a concussion. Beyond that, we have education or professional development being addressed by National Federation. And the basic message here is please practice professional development. There are many, many places that offer all kinds of opportunities to grow in knowledge of your sport. Just knowing the rule book and knowing your rules is a good start. But National Federation, USA Cheer, Varsity Spirit, WACPC, all offer opportunities for you to grow in your knowledge and ability, in knowledge of your sport and your ability to coach it. So be sure that you take advantage of those things. You've already started by doing this rules video. And then lastly, we do have a slide on that advertises, so to speak, National Federation courses. And it does list a few here. It gives you an idea of how many courses are offered a year and how many are taken advantage of. So you can take a look here and see concussion in sports, heat illness prevention, sudden cardiac arrest, fundamentals of coaching. The list goes on. There's 70 plus courses, as it says, 35 plus are free. So be sure that you explore the National Federation website and see what they have for you. Alrighty, and I think our next slide is a thank you from National Federation for reviewing your rules and gives you some contact information if you should need it. And that's it for the 2020-2021 rules video for y'all to see and know. If you have questions, obviously, you can always contact Jess or me, and we'd be happy to answer them or clarify anything that you might have for us to do. Jess, anything you want to add?
Nope. So if you're looking for clarification on rules for cheer, always remember cheerrules@wacpc.com is the email to get in touch with me. And for Julie, for dance, clarification on those rules, again, it's dancerules@wacpc.com. That's on the website. And I'm sure they'll show that in your district meeting presentations as well.